You clip on a 4 lead or 12 lead without thinking about it much. You hit acquire, glance at the screen, maybe you argue with the interpretation for a second. And that's it, you trust it. But here's the problem. Most clinicians have no idea where this came from, which means they don't fully understand what it can and cannot do. This isn't just history for trivia night. This is about understanding the limitations of your tools and recognizing that what you're using in the back of an ambulance started as a physics experiment that barely worked. I'm Angry Bill, and this is Pre-Hospital Wisdom. We understand that medicine's medicine, but pre-hospital providers like EMTs and paramedics have special skills, knowledge, and culture that makes us a little bit different. Let's raise the bar here a little bit. Stick with me, I'm about to tell you a secret about your monitor and the history behind it. So, it all starts with electricity, not medicine. In the late 1700s, it wasn't about cardiology, it was about curiosity. Enter Luigi Galvani, an Italian physician. He does something most of us would have gotten written up for. He hooks wires to frog legs and hits them with static electricity, and the legs twitch. His conclusion is there must be intrinsic electrical activity in living tissue. That idea was controversial at the time, but it planted the seed. The body, especially muscle, might be electrical. Fast forward about 100 years. Now people aren't just shocking frogs. They're trying to measure this electricity. So the first real heart signals came from Augustus Waller. He's Augustus Waller, and that sounds kind of German, so it might just be Augustus Waller. Don't know. Sorry about that. In the late 1800s, he records one of the first human heart signals using a capillary electrometer, which frankly was terrible. It was slow, inaccurate, distorted waveforms, but here's the key. He proved it was possible. The tracing looked nothing like what you'd recognize today. There's no clean PQRST. It's just a wavy mess that sort of correlated with the heartbeat. The clinical pearl is that every monitor you've ever used started as something that barely worked. So when your monitor struggles with motion artifact or bad lead placement or electrical interference, don't be shocked. This technology has always been fighting noise. Now we get to the one you should actually remember. Willem Einthoven. This is in the early 1900s. He builds a string galvanometer, and this thing is ridiculous. It weighs about 600 pounds. It requires multiple operators. Patients put their limbs in buckets of salt water. By the way, that's why they're called limb leads. You don't have to have them out on the electrodes out on the wrists and the feet for them to be limb leads. It's because you used to put limbs into buckets of saline solution. Anyway, all of this stuff, it works. And more importantly, it's accurate. What Einthoven gave you that you still use is that he standardized the P wave, the QRS complex, and the T wave. He created the naming system we still use. He also described what we now call Einthoven's triangle, the basis for limb leads. Every time you place limb leads, you're directly using his method. If you ever see a medic throw limb leads on wherever they land, that's not harmless. That's ignoring the geometry the entire system is built on. You don't need perfection, granted, but you should at least respect that this system assumes anatomical consistency. So we move from a lab monster to a clinical tool by the mid-1900s. EKG machines have gotten smaller and smaller and more practical. They start showing up in hospitals. Precordial leads, V1 through V6, are introduced. Now we're not just looking at the heart globally, we're looking at it spatially. This is where the EKG becomes a diagnostic tool, not just a scientific curiosity. So now we move into the pre-hospital world with the stuff that you actually care about. So we've got EKGs working in hospitals. They're useful, getting smaller, becoming clinical tools, but EMS doesn't exist in any meaningful modern form yet. And nobody's thinking, let's throw one of these in a moving truck with bad suspension and barely conscious drivers and see what happens. That comes later. We're up to LifePak 15 at least, and 35s are coming out. Was there a LifePak 1? The short answer is yes, kind of. The company behind all of this is Physio-Control. Their early devices in the 60s and early 70s were defibrillators first, and monitoring was secondary or non-existent. The naming wasn't clean like you'd expect now with LifePak branding. That evolves over time. There were very early LifePak labeled devices, but not a clean, widely recognized LifePak 1. Not the way you're thinking about. The real lineage that matters clinically starts when monitoring and defibrillation and portability start to merge. Now we get into our era, the machines that actually shaped EMS. I started on LifePak 5. This is kind of the entry to the game. This is where a lot of EMS clinicians cut their teeth. It was heavy, but actually field usable. It had basic cardiac monitoring, manual defibrillation, and limited EKG capability. There was no real 12-lead workflow as we think of it. There's no fancy interpretation, but it taught a generation of medics you had to interpret rhythms yourself. The machine wasn't going to save you. It wasn't even going to help you. You learned cardiology on a LifePak 5? Good. That means you can probably function without a computer holding your hand. So there was a LifePak 6 as well. I think they called it that because it was 6 pounds. I'm not sure it was, but whatever they want to go with. Eventually we get to a LifePak 10. This is one people get a little nostalgic about. This is the one that I greatly enjoyed. And yeah, there's a reason. It's got a better display, it's got more reliable monitoring, it's got improved defibrillation controls. It's still very much a manual, clinician-driven device. It's still not what we'd call a modern 12-lead system, but it's got cleaner signals and better usability. I liked it because it hit the sweet spot. It was reliable, predictable. It didn't try to outthink you. It assisted clinical care, and it didn't try to replace it. LifePak 11 was pretty awkward. I did not like it, and I don't think I'm alone in that. This is where things start to shift. There's more digital integration and early attempts at expanding monitoring capabilities. There were interface changes that weren't especially universally loved. There were usability complaints. The workflow gave you friction, and there wasn't really enough improvement to justify the frustration. This is a pattern you'll see in medicine. Version 1 is crude and functional. Version 2 is refined and beloved. And version 3 is, we made it worse somehow. So in the LifePak 12, we enter into the modern era. This is the workhorse for a huge chunk of EMS. There's major upgrades like a true 12-lead acquisition in the field, printed EKGs, computer interpretation, and data storage. It's even got transmission capabilities depending on your setup. This is where pre-hospital cardiology changes. STEMI identification in the field becomes possible. That allows for cath lab activation before we even arrive. And there's regionalized cardiac care systems. That's the inflection point. Before LifePak 12, EKGs supported care. After LifePak 12, EKGs drive system-level decisions. The biggest advancement wasn't the screen. It was getting a 12-lead early enough to matter. Then you move into the LifePak 15. It's more of a polished version of the LifePak 12. Think of it as a LifePak 12, but a little bit more grown up. It's got a better screen, there's color and readability improvements, it's got faster processing and improved artifact filtering. There's more reliable data transmission and expanded monitoring like end-tidal CO2 and stuff like that. It's got the same core philosophy though. We would recognize this. It's got a monitor plus a defibrillator plus a diagnostic tool, but it's smoother and faster and less fighting with the machine. If you worked long enough with the 12, the 15 felt like, oh, this is what they were trying to do the whole time. Fast forward to where we are now. Modern devices like the LifePak 35 gives you stuff like touchscreen interfaces, advanced filtering, and integrated decision support. Connectivity everywhere, and here's the important part. Nothing fundamental has changed. Pay attention to that. We're still using Einthoven's principles. We're still using surface electrode. We're still considering electrical vectors. The machine got smarter, and the physiology did not change. A 12 lead is still a 12 lead. I have 12 leads from the 80s and the 90s, and I have essentially hand manufactured 12 leads where you would print from a LifePak 10 one lead at a time and then tape it onto a piece of paper in order like it was arts and crafts time. The quality, the existence of a P wave, the existence of the QRS, the existence of the T wave, it hasn't changed. The rules haven't changed. So if you trained on older monitors, you probably trust your interpretation more than the computer, and you should. Newer clinicians are often the opposite. The danger now is over-reliance on the machine interpretation. The LifePak 5 forced you to think. The LifePak 12 helped you to think faster. And the LifePak 35 will let you stop thinking entirely if you're not careful. Every upgrade in these machines improved speed, improved clarity, and improved access. But none of them replaced clinical judgment, lead placement, and understanding what you're actually looking at. The technology evolved, but responsibility didn't. Stay accountable to your patient. Stay accountable to your EKG knowledge. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me. I'm Angry Bill. This is Pre-Hospital Wisdom. If this helped your thinking, challenged a habit, or gave you something you'll actually use on shift, do me a favor. Hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who could use better information too. That supports what keeps this channel focused on making clinicians sharper, calmer, and harder to fool by bad medicine. I appreciate you and your time more than you know. I'm Angry Bill. This is Pre-Hospital Wisdom. Until next time, interpret your own EKGs.